Imagine this. Two runners start at the same line. One keeps looking left and right to see who is faster. The other keeps his eyes straight, focusing only on his steps, his breathing, his rhythm. Who do you think will finish stronger? The truth is, energy spent on watching others is energy taken away from improving yourself. We live in a world where everyone is busy comparing. People compare jobs, cars, phones, even the number of likes on a photo. But comparison is a trap. Competition can sometimes motivate, but when it consumes you, it steals your creativity and peace. The real winners in life are not the ones who compete the hardest with others. They are the ones who compete the hardest with themselves. Every day they ask, how can I be better than yesterday? How can I learn something new? How can I turn weakness into strength? When you focus too much on competing, your vision becomes narrow. You start chasing what others are doing. But when you focus on improving, your vision expands. You start seeing opportunities that nobody else sees. That is where innovation is born. Think about this. The person who spends all day trying to beat someone else will always stay behind them because their direction is controlled by others. But the person who focuses on personal growth creates their own path. They don't just win the race, they change the game. So if you want to live a life of progress, stop asking, how do I compete? And start asking, how do I improve? Because the more you improve, the less competition even matters. Growth makes competition irrelevant. When we compete with others, we unknowingly build invisible walls around our own growth. Imagine two shopkeepers on the same street. One spends every morning watching his neighbor, trying to copy prices, design, and marketing strategies. He wakes up stressed, asking himself, what is he doing today? How can I beat him? The second shopkeeper, instead of looking sideways, spends that time thinking about how to make his store more welcoming, how to serve customers better, and how to add value in unique ways. Over time, the first shopkeeper becomes trapped in his competitor's shadow, while the second builds his own identity. Competition narrows the horizon, but improvement opens new directions. The truth is, when you are obsessed with competition, you stop listening to yourself. Your goals are no longer your own. They become reactions to what someone else is doing. This makes you predictable because you are always one step behind. But when you focus on improving yourself, you break free from this cycle. Improvement allows you to explore your own talents, strengths, and passions without being controlled by the fear of someone else getting ahead. It is like moving from a cage into open fields. The cage is competition, and the freedom is improvement. Another way to see it is through learning. Think of two students in the same classroom. One is always worried about beating the other in grades. He studies not for knowledge, but for numbers. The other studies because he is curious, because he wants to understand the subject deeply. At the end of the semester, maybe the first student scores slightly higher, but in life, the second student will always be freer. His mind is trained to grow, not to compare. When you learn for competition, you stop once you achieve a rank. But when you learn for improvement, you never stop because curiosity never ends. That is why those who focus on growth often outlast those who only compete. Competition also creates fear. You fear losing. You fear falling behind. You fear not being noticed. And fear is heavy. It slows you down. Improvement, on the other hand, is light. It is exciting. It is joyful. Because every step forward belongs to you. You are not measuring yourself against others. You are measuring yourself against yesterday's version of you. That mindset takes away pressure and replaces it with possibility. You wake up not thinking, how do I beat someone today? But how can I surprise myself today? That change in perspective makes all the difference between living stressed and living inspired. It is important to understand that competing with others locks you into their race. You run their course, chase their milestones, and celebrate their victories. But improvement builds your own race. You set your own milestones and design your own finish line. And because it is your race, there is no losing. There is only learning. This is why many people who appear to fall behind in traditional competition suddenly rise higher in life. They were never running someone else's race. They were building their own. That freedom is powerful because it allows you to create value that competition can never copy. Finally, improvement gives you ownership of your success. When you win through competition, you always know someone had to lose for you to feel like a winner. That creates insecurity because deep down you are afraid someone else will eventually beat you. But when your progress is built on personal improvement, nobody can take it away. It is yours. It is not borrowed from someone else's weakness. It is born from your own strength. That kind of success is sustainable because it does not depend on others slowing down. It depends only on your willingness to keep growing. And that is the greatest freedom anyone can have in life, to know that your progress is in your hands, not in the hands of your competitors. Comparison is like a slow leak in a tire. You may not notice it at first, but it quietly takes away your strength and momentum. When you constantly measure yourself against others, a large part of your energy is wasted on worry, doubt, and overthinking. Instead of using that energy to practice, to learn, or to build, you burn it on questions like, am I good enough? Why is he ahead of me? When will I catch up? These questions don't move you forward. They freeze you in place. Energy is one of the most precious resources we have, and when it is poured into comparison, very little is left for growth. Think about athletes for a moment. The best ones are those who channel every ounce of energy into training, into refining their craft, into building endurance. If they waste time comparing who has better shoes, who gets more media attention, or who is liked more by the coach, their performance drops. The track doesn't reward who compared less. It rewards who prepared more. Life works the same way. The people who progress are not necessarily the ones with the biggest talent. They are the ones who don't scatter their energy in comparison, but concentrate it on consistent growth. Comparison also affects focus. It creates a constant mental noise. Imagine trying to study while music is blasting in the background. No matter how hard you try, your mind keeps drifting. Comparison works like that noise. Even when you sit down to work, your thoughts drift to others. He has already done this. She is already ahead there. They have already achieved that. This background noise makes it difficult to give your full focus to what you are doing. Growth requires deep focus, but comparison keeps your attention shallow, always divided, always restless. That is why progress becomes slower and more frustrating. Another hidden cost of comparison is emotional exhaustion. When you compare, you rarely celebrate your own small wins because they look too small in someone else's shadow. You feel guilty for being happy because you believe someone else has already done it bigger or better. Over time, this robs you of motivation. What is the point of effort if the joy of achievement disappears in the fog of comparison? Improvement, on the other hand, gives you energy. Even small steps feel rewarding when you measure them against yourself. Running one extra mile, reading one extra chapter, solving one extra problem, these victories fuel you. But when comparison dominates, the fuel is gone, and so is the excitement to keep going. Consider entrepreneurs. The ones who compare constantly with rivals end up copying features, chasing numbers, and trying to catch trends. They burn energy chasing shadows, never really creating something original. Their teams feel the pressure, creativity dies, and progress slows. But the ones who put their energy into growth, into improving their product, their service, and their culture are the ones who win in the long run. Their energy is not scattered in looking sideways. It is focused on moving forward. History shows us that lasting impact is not made by those who compared the most, but by those who built the most. Finally, comparison makes your journey heavier than it needs to be. Life already demands effort. Every dream requires discipline. Every goal requires sacrifice. But when you add comparison to the mix, it becomes like carrying an extra bag of stones while climbing a mountain. The climb was already hard, but now it feels almost impossible. Growth becomes delayed, not because you lacked ability, but because your energy was wasted carrying what was never yours to carry. Improvement is lighter. It doesn't drain you, it refreshes you. Every drop of energy you save from comparison is a drop that can be invested in practice, in creativity, and in progress. And when all your energy is pointed toward growth, the results are powerful, unstoppable, and deeply satisfying. True success has never belonged to the people who spent their lives chasing others. It belongs to those who constantly challenge themselves to rise above their own limits. When you chase someone else, you are following their map. You might reach where they are, but you will never discover new territory. Challenging yourself, on the other hand, is about pushing boundaries that only you can see. It is about testing how much discipline, resilience, and creativity you can summon when nobody is watching. That inner contest is where real breakthroughs happen. It is not about proving others wrong, but about proving yourself right. Take the example of a writer. If a writer spends his whole career chasing another author's style, he may produce decent work, but it will never carry his own signature. Readers might even say, "This sounds just like that other author," but it will not feel original. However, if the same writer challenges himself to write more honestly, to dig deeper into his own experiences, and to sharpen his unique voice, he may create something unforgettable. The challenge is not to outdo another writer, but to outdo yesterday's version of himself. That is how true success is born, not by imitation, but by evolution. Challenging yourself is also more sustainable. When you chase others, your energy depends on their pace. If they slow down, you slow down. If they disappear, you lose direction. But when your competition is with yourself, you always have a target because there is always room to grow. You can always learn a new skill, develop a better habit, or build stronger discipline. This personal challenge never ends, which means your growth never stops. That is why the most successful people in any field often say, I am not competing with anyone. I am competing with myself. They understand that self-challenge guarantees lifelong progress, while chasing others guarantees temporary satisfaction at best. Another truth is that chasing others can create bitterness. You might work hard, give your best, and still find that someone is ahead. This leads to frustration and even jealousy. But challenging yourself is different. It is empowering because the only standard you are measuring against is your own. If you are better today than you were yesterday, you have succeeded. That small but powerful shift in mindset turns every step into a victory. Instead of feeling like you are constantly behind, you start feeling like you are constantly advancing. This keeps motivation alive, even during setbacks. Think about athletes again. A runner who only chases the person in front of him might win one race, but he will always feel limited by the opponent. A runner who challenges his own personal record keeps growing regardless of who else is on the track. Even if he comes second in a race, if he beats his own record, he feels progress. That feeling of self-improvement becomes addictive, pushing him further and further. In the long run, this mindset produces champions. Not because they always beat others, but because they never stop beating themselves. Ultimately, true success is not about being ahead of others. It is about reaching the best version of yourself. You could be the richest, the fastest, or the most famous, but if deep inside you know you did not challenge yourself, it will feel hollow. On the other hand, even small achievements feel deeply satisfying when you know they were the result of your own growth, your own effort, and your own discipline. Chasing others might give you applause for a moment, but challenging yourself gives you respect for a lifetime. And in the end, the respect you have for yourself is what matters most, because it cannot be taken away, no matter who comes first or last in the race. Improvement is the soil where innovation grows. Competition, on the other hand, often forces people into copying because the focus is on beating someone else instead of building something new. When your energy is consumed by the question, how can I catch up? Your mind naturally follows the path others have already walked. But when your focus shifts to, how can I improve? New doors begin to open. You are not limited by someone else's achievements. You are fueled by your own curiosity and creativity. Innovation does not come from chasing, it comes from questioning, experimenting, and improving step by step. Think about the difference between a student who memorizes answers to outperform classmates and a student who digs deeper to truly understand the subject. The first one may win in the short term, but the second one creates new ideas, new methods, and even new possibilities that others could not imagine. That is the power of improvement. It allows you to go beyond what exists, while competition keeps you stuck in what already exists. True innovators were rarely the best competitors in their early years. They were often the most curious learners, the ones who wanted to improve their understanding, not just their rank. Competition has another hidden flaw: it breeds imitation. When two businesses are locked in a competitive battle, they often copy each other's pricing, features, or marketing tricks. This cycle of imitation creates sameness. Customers get bored, employees lose motivation, and eventually the market stops caring. Improvement, however, breaks this cycle. A business that focuses on improving customer experience, product quality, or long-term value does not need to look sideways. Their innovation becomes natural because they are asking different questions. What problem can I solve better? What experience can I design differently? What future need can I anticipate? Those questions lead to originality, not imitation. Even in personal life, the same principle applies. If you compete with others, you might start copying their lifestyle, what they wear, what they buy, where they go, because you want to look equal or better. But this rarely leads to happiness. Improvement, however, makes you ask, what can I do to become healthier, wiser, calmer, or more skilled? That is how you innovate your own life. You stop living as a copy of someone else and start becoming an original version of yourself. Every habit you develop, every skill you practice, and every mindset you strengthen becomes a personal innovation that competition could never give you. History is full of examples of people who stopped competing and started improving. The greatest inventors were not trying to copy competitors. They were trying to solve problems. The greatest artists were not obsessed with outshining their peers. They were obsessed with improving their craft. The greatest leaders were not busy imitating rivals. They were busy improving systems, ideas, and opportunities for others. If they had spent their time copying, the world would never have seen their innovations. This shows us that progress is not born out of competition. It is born out of curiosity and courage to improve. At the heart of innovation is freedom. Competition ties you down to the standards others have already set, but improvement frees you to set new standards. It allows you to dream beyond the limits of what already exists. And once you free yourself from the urge to copy, you begin to create. Your ideas stop being reactions and start being revolutions. That is the moment when you realize improvement is not just about becoming better than yesterday. It is about creating a tomorrow that never existed before. Innovation is the child of improvement, and copying is the shadow of competition. Which one you choose decides whether your life becomes a story of originality or a footnote of imitation. Those who dedicate themselves to self-growth eventually discover something remarkable. They are no longer walking in the footsteps of others. They are carving their own road. When you live in competition, your direction is decided by the path others take. You are always chasing their milestones, adjusting your goals to match theirs, and measuring your pace against their speed. But when you commit to growth, you shift your attention inward. You begin asking, what do I want to create? What skills can I sharpen? What values matter to me? These questions lead you away from the well-worn roads of comparison and toward a path that is truly your own. Think about explorers of history. They could have stayed in the safety of known maps, competing with each other to travel the same trade routes faster. But the ones who made history were those who dared to grow beyond the limits of known land. They sailed into uncertainty, not because they wanted to outdo someone else, but because they wanted to discover something new. Self-growth works the same way. It gives you the courage to move into unknown territory, to explore your talents and passions in ways others may not understand. That is how unique paths are designed, not by running faster on old roads, but by daring to build new ones. Self-growth also protects you from the exhaustion of comparison. If you are always competing, your energy is tied to the movement of others. If they stop, you stop. If they move faster, you feel behind. But if you are focused on growth, you are guided by your own progress, and progress never runs out. There will always be a new book to read, a new skill to learn, a new challenge to overcome. Growth creates a personal compass, one that points you forward, even when the world is chaotic. With that compass, your path no longer depends on the noise around you. It depends only on your willingness to keep moving forward. In business and careers, this mindset makes all the difference. Many professionals waste years chasing titles, promotions, and salaries just to keep up with peers. They end up on a path that looks successful on the outside, but feels empty on the inside. Those who prioritize self-growth, however, discover unique directions. One person may realize their passion is in teaching, another in designing, another in solving problems nobody else is noticing. By improving their own skills and understanding, they open doors that competition could never reveal. Their careers may not look traditional, but they are authentic. And authenticity is what makes their paths sustainable and fulfilling. Self-growth also allows you to create value that no one else can replicate. If you copy others, your results will always be predictable. But when you grow in your own way, you bring something original to the table. An idea, a method, a perspective that belongs only to you. That originality is what attracts opportunities, trust, and influence. People are drawn not to copies, but to creators. And creators are born when individuals decide to grow instead of compete. Designing your own path is not about rejecting others, but about refusing to let others dictate your direction. It is about listening closely to your strengths and letting them lead you forward. Ultimately, the people who focus on self-growth end up becoming role models. Without even trying, their unique paths inspire others to break free from blind competition. They prove that life does not have to be a race on the same track. It can be a journey through unexplored fields. They show that progress is not about keeping pace with the crowd, but about finding a rhythm that feels true to who you are. And when you walk such a path, success is no longer about arriving first. It is about arriving fulfilled with a story that is yours alone. That is the power of self-growth. It does not just improve you. It allows you to design a life that is uniquely yours. When you focus deeply on growth, competition slowly fades into the background. Excellence has a language of its own, and it is louder than any attempt to compete. A person who is truly excellent at their work does not need to prove themselves or constantly look sideways to see who is ahead. Their results speak for them. Excellence commands respect without demanding it, because people naturally recognize authenticity and mastery. Growth, therefore, is the pathway that makes competition irrelevant. Not because others disappear, but because you rise above the need to compare. Think about a musician. A musician who is obsessed with competing will always ask, who plays faster than me? Who has more fans than me? But the musician who focuses on improving his art day after day eventually creates music so powerful that it moves people without effort. When he plays, audiences are silent, not because he outcompeted someone else, but because his excellence speaks. No amount of competition can replace the authority of someone who has grown into mastery. This is true in every field, whether it is sports, science, business, or art. Once excellence is achieved, comparison loses its meaning. Excellence also builds trust. When people see someone growing consistently, they stop caring about rankings or titles. They trust that person's commitment and ability. For example, a doctor who keeps improving her knowledge and skills will be trusted by patients more than one who is only trying to outdo other doctors. Her excellence speaks louder than her competition. Trust is built when growth is visible, when dedication is clear, and when results consistently prove reliability. Competition can win applause for a moment, but excellence wins loyalty for a lifetime. Another important truth is that excellence creates influence. When you grow to a level of mastery, you don't need to compete for attention. People come to you. Opportunities start finding you. Students want to learn from you, companies want to work with you, and communities want to hear your voice. This influence is not a result of fighting competitors. It is the natural outcome of growth. Competition makes you chase, but growth makes you attract. That is why the people who are truly excellent never waste energy on rivalry. Their focus is entirely on refining their craft. Excellence also makes you timeless. Competitors may rise and fall depending on circumstances, but excellence endures. A company that is excellent in serving its customers will survive longer than one that only tries to outcompete rivals. An athlete who focuses on improving stamina and technique will have a longer career than one who only tries to win quick victories. Excellence has permanence because it is built on growth. And once you achieve that level, competition looks small. It is like climbing a mountain so high that the noise of the valley no longer reaches you. Ultimately, growth transforms competition into irrelevance because excellence stands on its own. People do not ask, who is he competing with? When they see true mastery, they ask, how did he become so good? And that shift in perception is everything. When your work carries undeniable quality, when your life reflects constant improvement, you no longer need to compete for recognition. Recognition finds you. Success stops being about winning over others and becomes about fulfilling your own potential. That is why growth is more powerful than competition, because in the end, excellence speaks in a voice that no rival can silence. In the end, life is not a race to see who crosses the line first. It is a journey to see how far you can grow, how deeply you can learn, and how much value you can create along the way. Competing may give you moments of excitement, but improvement gives you a lifetime of progress. If you choose to grow every single day, you will not need to chase respect, success, or recognition. They will come to you quietly and naturally, because excellence always speaks louder than competition. So stop looking sideways. Look inward, look forward, and keep moving toward the best version of yourself.